Hey, folks, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Quiet Light Podcast. Greatly appreciate it. This particular podcast is of great interest to me. It's a great subject on writing content for your SaaS service or e-commerce business. Yes, I said it, e-commerce and content together, married together. It's with Michael Brenner from Marketing Insider Group. He's been in this business for decades, but now he's got a team of 35 writers that write for other people, e-commerce, SaaS, B2B, whatever it might be, that's what they do. And so I picked his brain throughout this whole interview on a number of different topics. The first one was content length. How long does it need to be in order to grab Google's attention? Second was frequency. How often do you need to publish content? Do you do it monthly? Do you do it weekly? Do you do it daily? A combination thereof. And then last, in that regard, how long does it take to get some traction? And he talks about that in terms of getting traction in terms of rankings. And then if you've got a physical product or service that you're having people pay for, how long you start to see conversions. And then the big thing is the return on investment. You start to see if you were using an agency like his, or if you do this on your own, you're starting to see the cost benefit in 3 to 4 months when you're starting to break even on your spend. And then in another 3 to 4 months, when you get to the 8-month mark, what he's seen with some of his clients who spend $80,000 a month on paid media, they're able to scale that down to $40,000 a month. And if you go all in with all of his types of services, which means a daily post, a weekly post, a lot of posts every month, you could run up to $4,500 a month. Sounds like a lot, but you've just stopped spending $40,000 a month in paid media. So you were spending 80, now you're at 40 plus another 4,500. You're saving over $35,000 a month on paid media to get more revenue and more conversions. Their goal at Marketing Insider Group is to make sure the conversion rate is equal to or greater to your paid media. They're not just looking to spam stuff out there and have lots of eyeballs with no conversions. They're very, very focused on conversion. And they share a monthly report on the total increase in rankings and everything like that, click-throughs and all sorts of things. It's fascinating. I could go on and on and on about this because it's a subject that is near and dear to my heart, because this is what I did with my last e-commerce business. I wrote good quality content over time and Google rewarded me. And I was able to reduce my ad spend pretty dramatically. There was a point where I was spending $50,000 a week on ad spend, and I was able to drop that down quite a bit. So join me with Michael Brenner from Marketing Insider Group. Listen to it through the whole thing. He gives some great tips throughout the entire podcast. Here we go. Michael Brenner, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you here. I'm excited about this topic. As you know, folks listening, we always have a pre-podcast recording interview just to get to know each other a little bit. And my background and history prior to Quiet Light was the last business I had was an e-commerce business where we wrote good quality content over a 5-year period and got rewarded for it. And that's kind of what Michael's agency does. But he's going to give away all the tips and secrets today about how to write good quality content. But Michael, tell us a little bit about what the Marketing Insider Group does so that folks understand who you are and what your background is before we jump into some of that.
Yeah. Long story short, 25, almost 30-year career in corporate sales and marketing. And in my last role, built out what we call content marketing program for a large software company that was the largest provider of leads and revenue from the marketing organization for the company. And so I built an agency, Marketing Insider Group, because I'm bringing all of the years of corporate marketing frustrations and experience into trying to solve this problem for B2B SaaS e-commerce brands that really want to own the conversation in their marketplace that drives to sales without having to spend money on, advertising all the time.
How long does it take to really get organic rankings when you're writing good quality content?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of factors, and there's, tons of experts out there in the SEO space that'll give you all kinds of different answers. We find it's about 3 to 4 months, even for a brand new domain that's writing and publishing consistently good quality content.
Now, what does that mean, consistent? Is it every day, every week, every month?
Yeah, we actually have done a lot of research on answering the mathematical question. And that's what I love to say. Like, we hear this quality quantity debate in the industry a lot.
Yeah.
And I say, listen, it's really not a question. You need to publish as frequently as good of a piece of content as you can. And what the data shows, we looked at thousands and thousands of websites, is that when you go from infrequent to frequent or inconsistent to consistent, you're going to win. You're going to see, a return on investment. The inflection points are pretty clear. One article a week and one article a day. So what happens is you'll see some growth if you're publishing, let's say, once a month. You'll see an acceleration of the curve, about 3x, when you go to once a week, and a continuation of that acceleration to about 5x when you go to once a day. So
how long are these articles? So the once a month, I could picture being 1,500 to 2,000 words. Once a week, maybe the same, but once a day, I mean, we're talking 400 or 500 words. What are we talking about?
Yeah, we only do 1,000 words or more for our clients because, Google's not looking for length necessarily, but it's looking for depth of expertise shared. And unfortunately, word length does contribute to that in their algorithm. And so we used to do 750, then it was 900 words. Now it's 1,000 words. We do throw in a longer form piece of content every once in a while for a client on what we call shorter tail keywords, like the name of the category that they're in. But yeah, generally it's about 1,000 words we feel is enough a length to demonstrate expertise to Google and to the audiences that read it to warrant higher search rankings.
And in your experience, which is vast, this can and should be done for the guy that owns a direct-to-consumer grilling apron site, or somebody that's got a SaaS business on, organizational stuff, or B2B as well. It's not just content sites, it's writing content where people are selling services and physical products. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it with jewelers. We've seen it with fashion brands work. We've seen it with, in-depth B2B software that, has 21 decision makers and a CFO that needs to sign off. The only thing, the areas where I would say it's a little more challenging is if you're doing, Facebook or Instagram ads for something that's kind of an instant consumable, emotion decision, then it can take a little bit longer. But if there's if the buyer is looking for any kind of education or wants to be part of an ongoing trend, which a lot of e-commerce brands are, then content can work to bring in the right traffic.
Okay. All right. So let's theoretically say I've got a grilling apron site. How do I start? How do I know what keywords to use and make sure I'm getting the right title, tag? And I haven't done this content development for over a decade now. I know I wrote a book. I know I've got a website, but I'm not constantly posting content. So assume that everybody else listening is the same. They just don't do it because they're doing paid advertising and doing rankings on, Amazon or on their, organic site with paid ads, but they're not developing content. How do you determine what keywords you're going to write about? And is there a density where you get too dense and Google's going to be like, yeah, you're just keyword stuffing, all that? Where do I find that stuff? How do I figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, it's, this is kind of our secret sauce, I think, in a lot of ways, but some of it is really just changing your mindset. And so almost every brand, almost every business owner, they're so, it's like the curse of knowledge, right? They're so ingrained and intensely focused on the product that they sell that we forget who the buyer is, right? So let's say it's grilling aprons, right? What problem does that solve? Does the consumer of a grilling apron, are they a barbecue enthusiast? Do they love meat? What are the trends in the grilling industry? What's the latest recipes that are being shared? Recipes is a great example, especially in the food space, for ways that you can sort of generate interest for a product that maybe the recipe itself has nothing to do with what you're selling. But if you're talking about, the best slow cooked pulled pork, there's a pretty good chance that the person reading that might be interested in a grilling apron. So it's like thinking about the audience and the buyer that you're trying to reach and what they care about, the things that they want to know, and creating that kind of content. Slowly, obviously, you want to start to lean into what you sell and the features and benefits and those kinds of things. And most business owners already have that, and they're already pretty good at explaining that. You got to create the context for the solution that you're solving.
Interesting. All right. So people kind of know what their customers want and need, and they should talk about it and maybe list things out But then do they need to look at, the keyword search tools to tell people, well, I should be really focused on sell my website versus sell my online business? Like, how do you determine that aspect, and where do you look?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have about 35 writers on staff, and a lot of people will ask us, does your writer have expertise in industry A or, vertical B? And in most cases we do. However, we hire for curiosity. And so to answer your question, I'm looking for writers that can Google something they know nothing about and read the top 10 answers from Google search results and write a better article than what they saw, or write an article that's informed by what they saw. And that's all your audience needs to understand. I think the business owner out there, if they have a pretty good understanding of the keywords that their audience is looking for, just Google one or two of them, read the top 10 articles, and write what you think is a better version or a informed version.
But what if I Google a keyword that doesn't get that many searches every month? How do I determine? That's my point is, could there be just a minor variation of the keywords where it's getting 1 million searches every month versus 10,000? How do I do that?
I mean, well, first of all, I have yet to see a search that doesn't have any search results or search volume. And there's a lot of, like, for example, in the research we do for our clients, we do share with them the volume of search that tools estimate keywords have. And about 75% of the keywords that we're suggesting they focus on the tools say have no search volume. But if I type it in, Google will say this has, 1 million people searching on it every month.
What are those tools?
So the SEMrush is one, or SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz, or some of these tools, but they don't know everything. And the point is, they're scraping the entire web every single day, and they can only go so far. And so, I think common sense comes to play, right? So it's like, 6 things you need to look for when buying a, grilling apron. You might be surprised at how many people are actually searching for a long tail, a relatively long string of keywords like that. And so again, Googling it yourself, you'll see. I have never Googled something and really not gotten a search result, unless you're talking about, let's say, grilling aprons in, Poughkeepsie, that are brown. Once you get it that deep, you might start to see some struggle. But if you're talking about anything that is, relatively close to something somebody's going to search for, you're going to see search results.
How important is that title? Like you just talked about 6 types of whatever. How important is that? Is that important to Google? Is it important to the reader, or both? And how do you make sure you're getting the best type of title?
We actually spend more time training our writers on headline development than we do on actually writing, because most of them, they know how to write. The headline is everything. I mean, well, the keyword that sort of, informs or inspires the headline is everything, but the headline really is everything. And here's the stat I love to use with our clients. Something like 80% of people will only read the headline. Another 5% or so folks will go on to read the first sentence. Another 3% will read the first paragraph. So by the time you get to the bottom of the first paragraph, you've essentially captured about 93% of all the people that you're going to reach. So focus on the headline, focus on the first sentence, focus on the first paragraph.
Okay. It's interesting. I'll back that up. I remember the first listing that I launched at Quiet Light, over a decade ago now. And it was one that my now business partner handed off to me, and he had it listed. Well, it wasn't listed yet. He had this engagement letter signed and everything was ready to go. I just had to write the teaser that goes online and the teaser that goes out in an email. And I wrote, the subject line for the email and sent it all for him to review. And he's like, that's not very interesting at all. What's special about this business? Why would I click this? And that's one of the things that we teach as well, is preach, I guess, right? We'll review and give feedback, but it's all about that first click. People are scrolling, they're distracted. They've got 2 or 3 screens now and their phone. We want them to stop and pause and click. Okay. Yeah. So that's really important. So if you want to really just get started, once a week, skip the once a month, don't bother. Right? Once a week, and then once a day if possible. And all of those no less than 1,000 words. What are your thoughts on, AI as a writing service? I know nothing about it. I've seen some headlines on it and see people that are trying to use this type of service. where it's you put in a bunch of keywords and artificial intelligence can apparently spit out a article. Total crap.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried, there's a couple places like Copyscape can write landing pages and web pages for you. Copyscape.ai. I've tried their service. There's a couple other services out there that use GPT-3, which is the sort of AI engine that's been developed to write human sounding copy. There's another version of it coming out soon, GPT-4. What we've seen is that those engines are not yet quite capable of writing an engaging article from beginning to end that sounds like it was written, for a human on a relatively obscure topic that isn't news or sports based. So the Washington Post uses GPT-3 to create, I'm a Philadelphia Sixers fan. I don't know when your podcast is going to air, but we just tied up the series 2-2 here in the NBA Finals. It could write an article about how well the Sixers did. They, this was the score at the end of the first quarter and the first half, et cetera.
Michael, how old are you?
I'm 50 years old.
Okay. So you were a Sixers fan because of Dr. J back in the day.
100%.
Me too. Me too. And I'm from Maine, so I wasn't a Celtics fan. I was a Sixers fan. All right. We won't go off on that tangent. Yeah. All right. Well, so
hoping they pull it through. But yeah, the bottom line is we're not yet seeing AI able to generate, an article that can rank for search consistently.
So for me though, if I think about, AI, the problem is I can come up with all the titles, I can come up with concepts and ideas and certain keywords that I want, but nobody can write about, not many people without experience can write about, 5 top things that should be in your ad back schedule. I don't know how AI is going to do that, but if they did, be a lot easier for me to edit an article than it is to actually write it.
Yeah.
So is that a sort of baby step type of thing for people if they want to try the AI to then edit the articles to make them sound more human-like, or are they just so bad that it doesn't flow properly to what you want it to flow to?
Yeah, it doesn't flow, and it makes nonsensical statements, and that's what's kind of the problem with AI right now. It doesn't understand context as well as it needs to. Again, there's another version coming out soon. We'll test it as soon as it works. We're gonna use it. But what we're finding, actually, to your point, it's really interesting. There are AI-based editors that are better at editing than writing, and Hemingway app, or the Hemingway editor app, is a great example of one that we use ourselves to. It identifies passive versus active voice. It identifies complex words when a simpler word will do. It identifies when paragraphs or sentences are too long. Those kinds of things are quite formulaic, and those tools are really good at identifying those.
Hemingway editor app. Now we're replacing our editor. She's going off on new adventures. Do we need to have an actual editor? Because what we're talking about is just basic writing and grammar. Because, we're all very successful entrepreneurs that took remedial English, right? So we need better writers for the stuff that we're trying to say. But sometimes e-commerce is spelled 9 different ways, and we want it all done one particular way. Can we input our choice of spelling for certain keywords in the Hemingway app?
No. Today it only looks for, like I said, active versus passive voice, complex words, complex sentence structures.
All right. I'm still going to look at it. I like the sounds of it. Okay, so can you give me some case examples? So for people listening that are currently running a SaaS or a service business or an e-commerce business, where you took somebody on as a client, what their current rank, what their previous rankings were, and where they are today, and how the whole process worked.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have one B2B SaaS client, our oldest client. They've been working with us for almost 4 years now. They were actually doing about 1 article a week. It was generally coming from the founder. He was spending a good 4 hours on it, time he didn't have. And a lot of it was pretty focused on the product, what they were doing, features and benefits, why it was doing what it was doing. When we started with them, we identified that, the category name, keywords, what the audience was interested in, trends, insights, started writing 2 articles a week, almost immediately doubled their traffic. Leads followed right, from that. We now do 4 articles a week for them. Almost 4 years in, they've more than quadrupled their traffic, and we're the biggest source of new customers for them. They're spending, and I'm happy to share, they're spending, $5-6 grand a month. And, and if you do the math, it comes to, less than a couple $100 per lead. on a pretty decent MRR, or monthly recurring revenue for them. So the ROI is there, and they continue to invest. That's one example for B2B SaaS. We had a services company, sort of an outsourced telemarketing agency, that came to us within actually the first week. One of their sales team shared an article that we created. I think it was the first or second article we created, generated a lead out of that, sharing that on LinkedIn for $60,000 in revenue. Now that was kind of a one-off, but you can find this case study on our website. We tripled their traffic in less than 6 months and quadrupled the number of leads they were getting.
And what's the website? Is it marketinginsidergroup.com?
Marketinginsidergroup.com. You'll see both of those.
More case studies there.
For sure. And then finally, e-commerce. We have basically a sort of a organic makeup company. They're an FBA business, and largely relying on ad sales or advertising to drive their sales in a somewhat unsustainable rate of spend. And so they started working with us, and we're essentially able to lower their cost of ads, ad spend by 50%. And with that same 50% that we were able to kind of take from them, have tripled the amount of sales that they've gotten. So again, different.
How long did that take?
That one took a while, I have to say. Makeup is a pretty competitive industry.
Yeah.
Organic makeup is a pretty hot trend. And so I think it was 7-8 months before we were able to show return on investment. The best thing about what we do, though, is usually it's 3 to 4 weeks, and you can already start to see the traffic trends go up. We will always want to make sure that there's an equal amount of conversion on the traffic we're getting. So, we're not getting more converting traffic than you might get from an effective ad spend. But if we can get the same conversion for a lower rate of cost, then it's obviously going to drive return on investment. So we were getting better traffic. It was converting on average. It just took a while for that return on investment to outstrip the ad spend.
Just clarification there. It's converting on average. Is the organic generally converting at a higher, same, or lower rate than paid?
We're always optimizing for traffic that converts at the same rate as paid. It's really hard to get traffic that converts at a higher rate, and it's really easy to get traffic that converts at a lower rate, right? I could spam audiences all day long with list posts about, what Disney princess should you be, based on a couple of silly questions. That traffic isn't going to convert for anybody. So it's got to be buyer intent related content. And that's how, that's the magic formula that we found that drives conversion.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, are you interlinking articles? If you've got one writer that's doing most of the writing, obviously they'll get better over time, and they know that I'm currently writing about X and Y was part of that. So would they link to other articles, and how does that increase your organic rankings?
Yeah, it's, I hate to sell against anybody, but, link building services is something that we sell against all the time. And I'll give you a quick example why. We include 2 to 3 internal links in every piece of content that we write. And our writers are writing to earn links from other sites, to earn that for free. So we had a client, reach out and say, hey, I've got a link building company who wants to spend the same amount we're spending with you for 3 or 4 links per month. And I was like, Dave, look at the article we wrote 3 months ago for you. It generated 700 organic links. We didn't spend any money for that. All you did was spend the, $500 on the article. 700 organically earned links on that piece of content because it was a great piece of content. So yeah, we include internal link building. We try to write so that it earns links from other sites. We want other companies to say, hey, that's, here's an article that covers that topic well. And we find it's just a way better, way to spend and invest in content, publishing content on your site than paying to have somebody else link to it.
Are you linking externally occasionally as well?
Yeah. So all of our writers, this is kind of how it works for us. And we have 35 writers, give or take 3 or 4 at any given time coming in or out. All of them, they write on other sites as well. So we ask them if there's an opportunity to contextually link to one of our clients, then they do so. We try to ask them to do that at least once per month. We don't force them. We don't demand that they do a certain client or a certain piece of content. We just ask them to include those. And we generally get about 1 or 2 links per client per month based on that. But again, it's kind of, the writers are doing it because they want to see our clients succeed. They're doing it naturally. They're doing it, in a way that makes sense for them. And we are finding that works way better than any other approach.
So with the clients that you're working with, are they, when a new article is written and uploaded to the website, are you promoting it? Are your clients promoting it through email, through social media outlets as well? What are they doing?
Yeah.
What would you recommend to anybody listening that's going to take this approach as well?
For sure. So we support them if they want for an extra fee, or we give them the tools that they need in order to serve themselves. And so I'll point to my own website. We use MailChimp. You can create a newsletter on MailChimp for free up to a couple of hundred subscribers. There's a tool you can Google, RSS, automated RSS email newsletter for MailChimp, and you can see the code that you can put into one of their templates that automatically sends emails out to your subscribers every time you publish a new article. So that's one way to sort of self-serve an email.
So it's tied into the website. So when you launch it, it detects it and then sends it out to your email list.
Yeah, basically MailChimp looks at your website every 24 hours and says, is there a new piece of content? If yes, send out this, this formatted email out to the.
Does Klaviyo do that too?
MailChimp is the only one I know of. I know that there's a plugin for Adobe's Marketo called deliver.it or Deliver It.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two that I'm aware of, but I'm sure HubSpot and Salesforce and all these other sort of email service providers are adding that functionality at some point.
Interesting.
We also, we do recommend that companies share every piece of content out to social, all of the social channels that they're engaging on. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and there's different rules. So Twitter, share the crap out of it 3-5 times a day. Nobody's going to care, because the feed's so fast. LinkedIn, share it once. Instagram, share it once. Facebook, share it once. Every piece of content we publish, we recommend our clients share at least once on those platforms for a small fee. Again, we do support that for them as well.
This is fascinating. I wrote this damn book that you've read. Thank you for reading it. I appreciate it. And I've promoted it via podcasting, which there he goes. I really should have done. I mean, it was good, because I think it's a very conversational topic, but, my last e-commerce business was successful because of a combination of paid and organic content. And every time we launched a new article, which really we only wrote an article, I think once a month. And we were back then, look, this was 2010. The rules have changed. It was anywhere from between 1,500 and 2,000 words. And it took time because it was a research. And basically it was covering everything from the, digestive system in the body. And it worked, but very different. You're starting to see, some traction after 3 or 4 months. But, if I decided to not post anything and just write 50 articles or 100 articles and then post them all at once, is that going to make any difference in terms of ranking and traction? Or is it best to just post them as they come out?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know this because Google never shares their secrets, but we can infer that they're looking for a lively, breathing, living website.
Okay.
And, something that's alive has a rhythm. It's you breathe in, you breathe out, your heart beats how many times per day. And so that's why, and we actually have a client that launched, they're in the fintech space, launched a new platform. We started working with them 6 months before launch, 6 months. We were writing enough content for them to publish 1 article a day for the first 6 months after launch. So we were banking up the content. Once they launched, though, they were only publishing once a day, even though they had, 6 months time. What's the math there? It's like 180 pieces of content.
Yeah.
And so they had 180, but they only published and scheduled them out once per day. And then, once they got through the first 6 months, now we're 9 months in, I think we're publishing maybe twice a week. But it allowed their website to go from 0 to 60 in a relatively quick period of time, and we wouldn't have gotten there if we published all 180 articles on day one, because again, Google's looking for, okay, it's a new site. Does it have a heartbeat? Is it breathing? Is it alive? Same thing with my book. I launched, I wrote a book called Mean People Suck.
I love it. Yeah. I love the title.
Yeah. And it was a fun passion project for me. Trying to solve some of the problems I saw in corporate cultures. I'm sure a lot of your entrepreneurs out there are entrepreneurs because of the mean people they worked for. And that's why I wrote the book. But what I did was I took all the bibliography notes, every source that I used in the book, I handed that to my own team. And I said, write an article based on each of these sources. So it was like, the Edelman Trust Barometer talks about how nobody trusts CEOs anymore. Write an article about that. Or, the number of people that are unhappy with their jobs from the latest report, write an article about why people are unhappy with their jobs. And so I actually wrote, an article per week for each of the weeks in the 6 months, leading up to, how it is, right? You're birthing a baby when you launch these books, and you're like worried that the world is going to call your baby ugly. And so I wanted to make sure I had a built-in audience, and actually sold quite a bit on the launch day just because I built up a subscriber base, a fan base almost on our website, taking that same approach.
That's brilliant. Awesome. We're just about running out of time here, Michael. I think this is fascinating. And because of my own personal experience, I think it's something that everybody should jump on and do. Paid media is only going to get more and more competitive, whereas the organic traffic is evergreen. And if you can get to the top of the rankings, it's work that you did in the past that you're paying off for today, versus you spent media money yesterday, you got to do it again today. And it sounds like over time, you could reduce the total volume of content that you're publishing from 1 a day to 1 a week or 2 a week or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Before we actually jump, how much does this cost? I know that if I were doing it and trying to write it myself, it's going to cost me time, and I could calculate what I make on an annual basis and see how much that cost is going to be. But if I'm going to use a service like yours, how's the billing work? What's the deal?
Yeah. I mean, like I think a lot of your entrepreneurs, we're trying to build a recurring service, and largely because it's the consistency that works. And so that's why I really pivoted my business from consulting to one-off content creation to recurring weekly content, as a service. Maybe that's a new category, content as a service.
There you go.
We can bookmark that.
Yep.
So we actually, we pay our writers. We do sort of, we charge it based on a monthly basis for our clients. It's about $4,500 a month for 8 articles or 2 articles a week. I think if you do the math, it's, $500 something or $600 something per article.
I was just going to do the math. That's actually a lot cheaper than what I paid. I think I paid like $1,500 for an article every month.
Yeah. So, again, and with us, you get keyword research, you get headline development, and you get the weekly content, as well as a monthly report where we use SEMrush, the tool that tracks organic search rankings, to show you that it's working. But we try to build it all in. The way that we're able to keep our costs down is our writers, A, love the fact that they don't have to talk to people. We manage client service for them.
Mm-hmm.
B, they love the fact that it's one client that they're working on over time. And so we're able to retain good writers at a lower rate than I think other, sort of content service providers are because of that. We only use English speaking, folks. So we don't outsource it to the Philippines, which I think works for virtual assistants, but not so much for writing. And again, we love it because it works, and we send monthly reports out to each client, and, it gives us a lot of pride to show them that it's working. And so, so it's a pretty rewarding kind of a service to be supporting.
That's awesome. Any last minute thoughts or recommendations for people that think they may be brave enough to go out and do this on their own versus hiring somebody like yourself that's got a few decades worth of experience?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say it's, while ads can give you a short-term boost, this is a way to build a business for the long term. And it's compounding, like your investment in your 401k or the stock market. If you invest $1 every week, you're going to see a return over time. Our average client spends about $80,000 a month on advertising. We're able to bring that down to 40 and give them the same result for $4,500 a month. So that's a $40,000 savings. Well, it's a $35,500 savings.
Yeah.
So it's the same result, right? And that's really, I think, the way to think about it is, can I not reduce or completely eliminate ad spend? Because you want to find people that are going to buy right now based on a creative ad. But can you reduce your ad spend, build an organic, audience that's going to convert at the same rate, and have that audience as an asset for your business over time?
I love it. Brilliant. How do people reach out to you directly, Michael, or get to Marketing Insider Group?
Yeah. So marketinginsidergroup.com is the website. Michael at marketinginsidergroup.com is my email address. I get a lot of connections through LinkedIn. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. Send me a note if you saw the podcast. Be happy to send over a free PDF of my book if I'm allowed to do that. So I'm not selling anything, but
that's fine. Buy the book, folks. Get the Audible. Yeah, exactly. He'll send the PDF as well. People do suck. They
do. So if you mention the podcast, I'm happy to send that over.
Awesome. All right. This has been great. This is fantastic. I think everybody should be doing this in addition to spending money. And it sounds like it's an amazing return on investment if they do it well for, a few months to start to see the results. So thanks for your time, Michael. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.